Hey, welcome to Cattywampus. I'm Kirk K. Driscoll, K for King, and we have a guest with us today that's going to blow your minds. Kirk Driscoll.
Oh, man, what an introduction.
I can't introduce myself if I'm Kirk Driscoll.
I hear you. So, no, but, Andy, I really appreciate you being here today. And it's funny, we were just talking about that beforehand, is like we watched the first episode, and as we're sitting back going through, it's okay, do we need to have the same introduction every time? And like the go live introduction. And
wouldn't that be boring?
I think it would be boring, and I don't think it would be cattywampus. So I think...
Ooh. You got to be true to your brand.
Yes. So, question. So, it's a pretty cool opportunity. We've been around each other now. Is it 20?
It's probably 20 years.
20 years.
Yes.
So, when you met me, did you think you would still be talking to me nearly 20 years later? Or you were like,
ooh, where did we meet? Was it Alpha Soda back in the day? Wherever we met, it was somewhere in that quadrant of stores. It's all turned over now, so I don't know anymore. But I don't know. Probably, yeah. Because you had really good energy. And I like being around people that have good energy.
So I think it was when Brandon...
Well, initially the Tamburellos, we came to your house for maybe a party for them. You guys were in small group
together with them,
from what I remember.
So they met you there, and then when Brandon worked with us at Power Realty, connected, circled back around. And then I was talking before you got here, kind of just how we knew each other. So we had to change our group name several times for all the men. So what do you do? Just kind of high level. What do you do day in, day out? Like how would you describe yourself to others?
Oh, what I do for a living. Yeah. I help make people's dreams come true. And that sounds a little cheesy, I know, but I really do.
Yeah, no,
I really do.
Yeah.
You know, I was in the corporate world for 14 years, invented a national brand called Fruit 2.0. We sold the company to Kraft. I kind of had a point where I was like, well, now what do I want to do that I'm 37 and I kind of have a second career ahead of me? And I literally, this is probably more info than you want, but I literally went to a hotel in Dallas called the Anatole. And it took an entire day. I heard about this thing where you could like fast and like take a whole day, don't eat, and you could think about stuff. And I really did that. I went for a run. I came back to this courtyard in the hotel, and I just saw these figurines of like a grandpa with his grandchildren fishing at a little lake. And I'm like, that's what I don't want to happen. Really, I don't want to wait till I'm a grandfather to enjoy my kids and go fishing. I want to do that now. What career could I do? And I decided I wanted to go help people figure out what I figured out. I wanted to run a $100 million company and launch a national brand, and I did. So I want to go help people do that. I want to help them make their dreams come true. Mm-hmm. And what that turned into was, I'm a business guy. I was an entrepreneur at 12. I had a legal business at 12 and an illegal business at 14. So I cut grass, and I learned you could sell grass.
Yeah.
So, and there was more money in the second one, but that's a bad ending story if you do that too long. You know all about that.
I don't know
the work you do.
I don't know anything about that.
So what it migrated into, the end of the story, is I do mostly business consulting.
Yeah.
Well,
then that's how we met. And so I know that people say, oh, that's great. You've known each other for 20 years, but we've been in pretty intentional relationships over the last 20 years. The first 15 of it, even more so. The last 5, less intentional than it was, but it seems like whenever we get back together, we catch right back up.
It's usually on a mountain.
It is usually on a mountain, without a doubt. So it makes it pretty interesting. What's something you could share with folks that you know about me, where you saw me cattywampus, or you know that it?
Ooh.
I know it's a question that I didn't prep on.
No, I like it.
But just like a top of mind thing that is like, this is.
Can you ask me this question? What does Kirk Driscoll do that's not cattywampus?
Okay, let me ask you that question. Let me rewind. So, hey, what does Kirk Driscoll do that's not cattywampus?
Man, you know what my biggest memory is of you when we first started talking, how you said you wanted to get into real estate. And I'm fascinated by people's business stories. You can learn something from anybody. And you said how you wanted to own Main Street, Highway 9, same thing, right? In Alpharetta, Georgia. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting. And how you did the FedEx thing up and down.
Thank you, FedEx.
FedExed everyone. And you just got in front of them and you wore it out until you became the realtor of choice, or you were enough of choice to where you had properties up and down Highway 9. And I don't know if that qualifies for cattywampus or not cattywampus, but that's what I think about with you. Like, you're this, not to necessarily use the word tenacious, but you're this bulldog kind of guy that's going to go get what he wants regardless, and it's usually you're going after something good. Maybe it's always good. You're like, and then, especially when people say, hey, you can't do that.
That's when you can do it.
Watch Kirk D. It's really D. Driscoll, but I put the K in there for King. That maybe is on tape, maybe it isn't.
We try.
No, it's Kirk T. Driscoll for Timothy.
Yep. We try not to edit anything so that we can let it run as authentic as possible.
Yeah,
we might have
copy
to
that.
More editing this time there, Zach, but we'll see. So
before tries to get your right middle initial.
Yeah, perfect.
I know it somewhere. It was in my brain. I had to boot the hard drive.
But the thing is, I've really enjoyed living life with you. We've shared a lot of good memories, a lot of challenging memories where we work through stuff with family, businesses, just everything in between. And it's just good to have somebody you can trust in your corner. So I'm grateful for that.
Ditto. Doing life together, man. It should cover all sectors, right?
It should. And most people keep that kind of to themselves, and that's really kind of at the core of this show. What we're trying to do is share those moments with people that the average person never wants to talk about, right? They want everything to be kind of like social media feed. Everything's great, sun's out,
highlights reel.
Even though it's raining like hell and the wind's blowing, they're sitting on the side of the beach and toes are in the sand, and really their head's underwater and they're drowning.
Wrinkle-free life.
Yeah. I don't have one of those.
That's an awesome shirt, though. By the way,
are they
right there?
Oh well, awesome. I appreciate it. I love the fact that you're giving me. I probably will never wear this shirt again on the show, but it does look good on you, though. Does it bring out the gray in my beard? I'm just not used to you being in a polo, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I got dressed up today for you, so I appreciate that. Yeah. So what's that moment? What's that moment in your life where you realize things were jacked up, messed up, screwed up, cattywampus, out of balance? Like what's that thing that you would be willing to share today? And it can be as raw as you want it to be. Yeah. What's that? What's something you want to share? I got at least a top 10, but the one that's coming to my mind that was probably the biggest one was around probably that same timing I mentioned earlier, around 37. We had 3 children at home, married. I was in my opinion, an average husband, even though I thought I was kind of an above average husband. And so I started getting feedback. You were one of the guys, I think we were doing the 100X groups back then too, the business owner groups, mastermind. And I started getting feedback about, like, again, you don't know you're strong until someone stronger or strong enough comes along to give you feedback. And that's me. I don't think you're pretty strong too. You probably don't get as much feedback, and people like us don't. So partially that group, definitely my wife, and some other organizations that I was doing things with that were pushing back saying, hey, we don't think it's the right time. Maybe you're not the right guy for this board seat or whatever. And I'm like, what is going on? And I literally had one of those moments as a man where I doubted everything I was doing up to that point in life. Do I really have what it takes to go after what I want in this world? Do I believe in myself? Do others believe in me? It was one of those crisis moments where, like, is this what a midlife crisis is like? I don't know. I didn't have a quarter life crisis, but this sucks. And that's when I went to counseling. I started meeting with mentors. You and I probably met a couple times so I could get feedback. I'm like, that guy's he's going to shoot straight with me.
Guy like Jim Lewis, he'll shoot straight with you.
Yeah, yes, he will. Jim, if you're watching, you do shoot straight. Without a doubt.
Love him for that. Doesn't always feel good when, you get that raw feedback, but man, without it, you're going to be cattywampus. You're going to be askew, too much askew. If you say you're one thing and you come in as another, or vice versa, that doesn't build trust, and you may not end up getting where you want in life. So,
no, without a doubt.
That would have been about late 30s, yeah.
Do you think in that setting, what limits you more in that setting, the doubt in yourself or disbelief that someone else doesn't believe that you're capable? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, I think for me it's internal. They did a study. I'm in the coaching world, executive coaching world a lot, and they did a study years ago about why people hire a coach. And usually it's pretty well-off people that you would think wouldn't necessarily need a coach, a mentor, a guide. And the two biggest reasons were they needed vision and they needed belief. And when I read that second one, I was like, really? You would think these overly confident to overly confident people that typically hire the coaches wouldn't need that.
Right.
But I think deep down, especially some of us that look like we have it all together on the outside, maybe we have further to fall. So the doubt comes in like, man, I don't know if I can stay on the top of this mountain. This is windy up here. This is difficult physically up here. That was me, internal, yeah.
And your takeaway, you talked a little bit about what you did to come through that, but mentorship, I know from you maybe you didn't write a book around mentorship, but what is the value of you, and kind of sum up your findings in that book as well there? What does mentorship mean to you, and what's the value?
Man, you want to do it alone or you want to do it with a squad?
Yeah.
Right? What's the old, I think it's an African proverb that says, further, let's see, I can go faster alone, further together. Faster alone, further together. Yeah. And I was all about the faster. But man, to have a tribe, to have your squad with you, that's what that book's all about. How do you find your people? And it's all about being intentional. Like anybody can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's free.
And it's free.
It's there. Most people desire it. Very few are willing to be vulnerable enough to engage at that level.
Yeah, and for whoever's listening, we put way too much, in my opinion, we put way too much pressure on the mentor relationship. When reality, you should never bring that word up. Never say, hey, could you be my mentor? Because that freaks people out. It's almost like saying you meet someone for the first time. Yeah. Hey, you want to get married? Yeah. Like, it's deep. It's intense. Better to just say, hey, I admire a lot of the things you're doing in business. Would you meet with me sometime? I'd love to just hear your story. I'm buying. Well, I don't really have time. Could we do a phone call, a Zoom? Almost everybody will meet with you.
Yeah, without a doubt, just if you ask. So to kind of get through that, to balance out some of the unbalance and get less cattywampus or less askew, mentorship, what are a couple other things that you've done into there that helped you realize? I mean, I know it's asking the questions, but what is that self-discovery that you did?
Well, the process was, man, my mentor, his name was Barry. Years ago, I went to him and I said, hey, man, he was 10 years older than me. I said, you've been getting to know me. I want to level up. I want to get better. I don't want to be stuck. I said, what would you suggest I do? He looks me up and down, sizes me up a little bit, and he said, wanted to see if I was serious. And he said, all right, I want you to take a day and go waste a day. Okay. Wait, what? He said, yeah, just go waste a day. I thought he was joking because I'm not going to waste a day, man. I'm on this planet for a little bit of time. I want to make impact. And I said, what else you got? And he kind of chuckled like, you're kidding, right? You came to me. And what do we call those? Assholes? Like, you asked for an opinion, I gave it to you, you're not going to do it. So I said, no. I thought I really had it right. And he said, all right, I'll give you this one. Take 2 days. So I call up Blood Mountain, right? State parks in Georgia. I said, hey, I'm going to do one night. I'm not doing 2. And so I said, hey, I'd like a 1 night rental
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we have a 2-night minimum. Like, do you know Barry? Did he put you up to this? Point is, I did it. It was painful. I had to detox for a day. I was like cat in a room full of rocking chairs, man. I was all nervous, bag of nerves in there. And the next day I remember getting up. I had made it through the first day. I walked outside. The air was crisper. The sky was bluer. The river that was running through there was crystal clear, like I'd never seen it before. Just everything was better. I've done over 400 of those. What I call 12-hour day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Just get up, because I had a young family, you know, so I couldn't really take an overnight. Well, the first time I did, because Barry told me I had to. But then I said, I need these. Yeah. These are going to right size me. I would suggest, to use your word, the phrase, I was so cattywampus that I just needed a ton of repair work, almost like going into recovery.
Yeah.
Self-recovery. And that's why I needed over 400 of those. So that first couple of years, I probably did the majority of those and got right-sized so that could be of impact.
Without a doubt. I mean, we all have something we can recover from, without a doubt. And I know the thing that I have taken away, and I've probably used it, I don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands of times, is T3. Is something that you shared with me, and it was T3. The first time you said, I'm like, what the heck is it? Because you challenged me to do an overnight with no phone and unplug, and I'm like, what the heck? You know, no, I'm too busy. But the time, time to think, and it's frightening. You would think it would be something that we would all yearn for, but yet I don't know. Maybe there are people that do. I know I have to force myself into create that habit.
It's rare. It's rare that people do it. And then I remember taking one guy up to the mountains once, because normally I'll just drive about an hour up into the mountains. And he comes and he's like, man, this has been amazing. He said, I think I'm going to book one for next year. Like, if it was that amazing, why wouldn't you book it for next month?
Or next week.
Yeah. So, but you're right though, man. We're all the same. We're busy every single time. And I just did one 2 weeks ago. Hadn't done one for months. And I kept telling people to do them. And then somebody said, hey, when's the last one you did? Uh-oh. It had been like 6 months. So I went up to North Georgia to a state park. My point is, as I was driving up there, even the days before, I'm like, I don't have time for this. I got this deadline. I got that thing. But here's the payoff. In fact, I'll use Win Brannon. Back in the day, I hope it's okay, Win, if you're listening. And he and I go on one of those. And I remember he was saying all the same stuff you would say or I would say. He's like, I don't have time. I got a deal on the table, blah, 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 blah. What if I'm not there and the call comes in? And back then, the cell phone service didn't work about 20 minutes into the mountains, from the mountains. So then we go up in the mountains, we do our day, and we're getting back in, and cell phone coverage comes on. And he had been a little bit nervous, you know, like, well, but it was really good. It was really good. And he was thankful he went. Guess what happened when he comes back into cell service?
Deal was done.
Deal was on the table now.
Yeah.
So the opposite happened.
And a lot of times that's the case. So tell everybody, you know, so you realize that you go through the pain of discovery, put these disciplines into effect, right? And been really intentional. Now, what's life like now? Had you not put into work, not made those changes and put those disciplines in, like what's the payoff? What's the benefit today?
Yeah, I'll give you a little more granular. I was joking, say this first. I was joking with a guy at lunch who's a big commercial real estate developer, and how I had almost gotten into commercial real estate in 1987 in La Jolla, California, before the big boom. I was offered a job with Caldwell Banker, commercial real estate, and I didn't take it because I had $400 to my name, just graduated college, and drove out there to find myself, and I couldn't wait 6 to 12 months to make money. So I said no. And I said, but it's probably good, because if I would have gotten in La Jolla before that big boom, I'd probably be on my X number of wives, pain medication addicted, kids wouldn't know me. So I kind of joke about that. That's the, relief I give me for not hitting it big in commercial real estate like you did.
Thanks for the dig. I guess that's where all my problems come from now. Thank you.
All the success.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I wanted to give that because I was about to just say, man, things are great now, because they are. But that doesn't mean they're without problems. What all that preparation did, and all those trials did, and all the things I did to make those problems better became the software to deal with all the crap that comes up now that I almost don't even know is crap, because it's kind of like, you learn karate and you learn the moves to block the kicks that come and the punches that come. It becomes Karate Kid, so effortless. You wax on, wax off. You're just shaking the kicks off and you don't even know it. It's just second nature.
Yeah, it's just faster response time.
I think it is. And I'll tell you, based on something you asked me earlier, the three big things that I do on a daily basis, at least a weekly basis, is I get my physical health right. I've been in 5th grade, I couldn't do the push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, the national health kind of thing that we all maybe did. I don't know if that was just my generation. And so I went home and I told my dad, I said, Dad, we're going to Walmart tonight. I got to buy some weights, because I couldn't do them. And I was the kickball champ of the 5th grade. So, you can't not be able to do the other stuff. My whole image in the 5th grade was being ruined. And so eventually I was able to do that stuff, and I just haven't stopped because it's my drug. Like, everyone's got a drug.
It's just, what is it? Or you want to talk about it. And that's really, it gets into our, to get it just a little bit of inappropriate inside of an appropriate show. He's thrown into double D's, which are our daily disciplines. What are those things in your life that you're doing now that you weren't doing prior to? And so physical health.
Yeah, definitely. Like, how many people start out in 5th grade exercising, they go through school, get in some sports maybe, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And I've had seasons like that, but I can't be done. That's my mental health. Makes me feel good. Like, for example, and I keep pushing myself, I say it like this: you've got to do things that are difficult. It can't be just hit the gym, do some circuit training that you've been doing for 42 years or whatever, 42 days. You got to push yourself to new limits. So a friend of mine, Jeremy Newsom, he's insane. This guy's insane in a good way. He had us do 1.8 miles of bear crawls a couple weeks ago.
As I saw it, I was going to ask you about that.
He's done a 5K. And I know there's people that have done
a bear crawl. A bear crawl? Come on.
Yeah. The guy that wrote the 12-hour walk, I believe, has gone on record of doing an entire marathon of bear crawls. Now
that's insane.
You go 50 yards rest, go 50 yards rest. I can't imagine. It took us at least 2 hours to do 1.5 miles, 1.8. And that was after we did, what do they call them? The lumberjack climb. You put a guy on your back and you go up the hill 50 yards and then you switch, 50 yards, switch. Ooh, rough. But continuing to push yourself physically. So it's physical and it's relational and I'll call it soul. Those are the big three things I do. So physically, that's the first one, because when I'm not feeling good physically, it affects the mind. And the depression can start to spiral. But for some reason, when you're doing something difficult, like a cold shower in the morning, you come out of there's no problems after a cold shower. You're just so happy the cold shower's off. Yeah. Or an ice plunge, same kind of difference.
So we can cut. I tell my Dina, if you're watching this, we're cutting the gas off, because if we take cold showers in the morning, it's going to be a better day. Andy Christian said it. You're
the guy with the heated bathroom floor.
Oh, I just look. Don't talk about my freaking floor. That's not important here. What we're talking about is
I have always wanted one since I heard that.
We're going to take cold showers from now. She's got to take them with me now. I can,
that would be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So cold.
We'd have to use the phrase turtle, but
yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yep. Boom. He dropped there. All right.
So physical, progressively getting more difficult, whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
Then relational. I mean, on our deathbed, nobody's going to worry about people they worked with necessarily or neighbors necessarily, but you're going to want your family and close friends there at the end of your life, or 80th birthday party, if we don't want to be as morbid as deathbed. And so I learned early on
to 80.
Or that.
You're much closer than I am to 80, but
that's fair. That's true.
Okay.
But I'm going to live longer than you and be your pallbearer.
That's all right. Roll with that.
So the relational side, I kind of grew up as an a-hole. I didn't prioritize relationships. And then when I realized how important they were, I'm like, this has got to be like number one or number two on the list. So I started prioritizing my marriage. Without a good marriage, what else do you have? And then our 3 children. And then it goes out from there, like, our squad, our guys, groups, and people you do life with. That's important. Taking hikes like we do. You got to prioritize that stuff. So physical, then relational, and the last one I call soul, because soul is a combination of spirit, body, mind, all that stuff together. To me, it's all the inner stuff. Back to your earlier question about self-doubt. Like, how do you overcome that stuff? Good soul stuff, like taking those trips, just being good with who I am. Because, man, my mother was mentally ill and had deep, deep depression. And once, I'm sure we can say this here, we've said worse, when I did acid in college, not proud of it. I did it a couple times until I had a bad trip. Not cool. Bad trip. Not cool, man. I got so paranoid. I thought the world was ending. I found this pine tree that had the leaves, the branches that come down to the ground, and you could sneak under it and sit under that thing for like 3 hours until that stuff wore off. I couldn't face humans. I couldn't face myself. It was the worst feeling ever. And so that's depression.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. And my mother lived with that like every day, like being paranoid of what people thought about her. Whoa. So whatever someone needs to do, for me, that's that third thing. I put the word soul on it, but you could put something else on there. Do that. Make sure you're good with you. Yeah. Because I don't know what it's like for you, Kirk, but when I'm not good with me,
it's ugly.
And nothing else is good.
Yeah,
you put the oxygen mask on yourself, as the flight attendant tells you. Like, you got to be good with you before you can help anybody else.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, before we wrap here, if you're speaking to that business owner, the dude that's never been intentional, or a lady that's never been intentional with someone else, like, what would you tell them? Obviously we're going to put some contact information for them to be able to get a hold of you if they're like, hey, that's my kind of guy. And I can speak. I mean, we've known each other close to 20 years, and what you see is what you get.
Still surprised you're my friend.
Oh, I know.
I thank you for that.
I know. It's the checks you send me, but really, it's just speaking from our authentic. I know who you are and what dependable, consistent in there, and have someone in that corner with you like that is great, through good and bad and everything in between. But someone that's never had somebody they've been too afraid to ever pick up the phone and call someone or share with a friend, like what would your lasting, kind of last statement be to somebody that's just to get unstuck and to get balance? What would you say to them?
So just so I'm clear, you're suggesting they're not connected, stuck, or anything?
Anything. It's just whatever, just from all the folks that you've met with. If someone happens to be watching this, you're not going to be speaking to everybody, but to the core people that that you've been where they are, what would you say to them?
100%. The law of motion. The law of motion. Newton's law. A thing at rest tends to stay at rest. And a thing in motion tends to stay in motion. I don't know if it's true for everyone. I believe it is, or I probably wouldn't say it, but I know it's true for me. And you get too used to being chill, and you get more chill, and maybe you get bored, and then you get going. You got to know yourself, okay? That's back to that third thing. You know your soul. But, man, when you start going, it picks up momentum, and it's easier to go. It's like God can't move a parked car. Get unparked. Whatever you have to do, get going. And, the biggest thing I'd say, if anyone didn't hear anything else, is you can do this. You can do this. Definitely can do this. Anyone that doubts they can't do it, just go watch any number of these positive podcasts that are out there, or Instagram posts, reels, stories. Almost every day there's a story about someone like, man, I didn't think I could. And then I heard this guy or gal give a talk, and I tried it. And look at me now.
It happens.
And so, in honor of National Donkey Day, holy crap, I didn't realize this. Like, when you look up here at our little Cattywampus dude, did you know today, thank you, Rena, did you know today is World Donkey Day?
Doesn't everyone know that?
I just want to know. So, we're excited that you joined us today on World Donkey Day here on May 8th.
Now I'm not sure I like the fact that I came here.
Yeah, I know. So we know we had a special jackass today with us, but he's one of my really good friends, and man, I couldn't imagine living life without you and accountability and people like you. So if you watch today, please, if you've never been in an intentional relationship with someone that's just going to hold you accountable where you're known, I would strongly encourage you to find that person. If you don't have somebody and you want to reach out to us, we can get you connected up with Andy. We're going to have all his information and links down in the details. Man, subscribe to our channel and check back next week with another great story. Thanks for joining.